and happy fall. This is, of course, the Rockwardness podcast, where we interview songwriters about why they started writing, and they play us one of the first songs they ever wrote. We talk about their journey and where the path led. The present, it's a gift. I'm your host, Rose Sean. My co-hosts, as you know, are the handsome, personable, and talented Terence and Tony Tancredi. Today's guest is a Canadian singer-songwriter from Edmonton who has made her way as a professional musician in Los Angeles. She's toured across Canada, released her debut album Both Sides at 16, and since then has worked as a session musician and live performer. Y'all, she sang with Chris Christopherson. She even appeared in a CoverGirl ad highlighting a cappella singers as part of a greater campaign for Pitch Perfect 2. She's an incredible singer, a great guitar player, and a gifted songwriter. We're talking to Samantha Schultz. She tells us all about the Edmonton folk scene, getting an extra full ride to Berklee College of Music, and also getting down to her last $30. Stick around to hear how that low point led to a career highlight, and also for 2 gorgeous live tunes. Check out our cozy fall chat with Samantha Schultz.
That was me literally until last October, so.
I mean, although maybe it's why it took me so long to get COVID, because I don't have 5G, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the AI in your bloodstream too, that's 5G.
Right, well, I did get vaccinated, maybe that's the problem.
Early
with
beta.
you got vaccinated with 5G?
I let it in.
Right.
I let the little nanobots in or whatever.
Those nanobots are so cute though.
I mean, when under a microscope, they're adorable.
Enlarged to show texture.
Enlarged to
Like cereal. Yeah.
Well, welcome, Sam.
Welcome.
Hi, Samantha
Hi.
Schultz.
Thanks for
Hello.
coming.
Of course.
Yeah, we're so glad you're here. We do research. We looked you up. You've been here for a minute.
Yeah.
Done a lot of cool things. But we like to start with, before you did all the cool stuff, how did this all start for you, the musical journey?
Oh, God. It's been a long time. It's been one of those things of you do it for so long, and when you tell the origin story, I guess if you're going to call it something, it's crazy to think back because it just seems like it's always been this way. I don't know. I grew up in a musical household. Both my folks played instruments when they were kids, but they've, if anything, are some of the greatest music appreciators that I know. So they had every type of music playing in the house. My dad had all the blues, kind of folky, R&B stuff covered.
Yeah.
And then my mom was she loved top 40. She loved more the mainstream stuff. And then we had random things here and there. My earliest memory is the Phantom of the Opera soundtrack. So
Nice. Clever.
That is so funny.
So it's we really had everything in the
Yeah.
house in terms of music, and we had it playing everywhere. It was always in the house. It was in the car, and just
That soundtrack?
yeah, actually.
What was your favorite song off it? Just curiously.
Oh my gosh.
Show tunes.
Show tunes. It's hard to say because there's so many reprises through that whole thing too.
a lot of repeating
Sing
things.
Yes.
for me.
I mean, the Phantom of the Opera track
She's
is pretty classic.
So
but,
like a soprano.
Yeah.
Wild, yeah.
Yeah.
Wild range on that.
Yeah, that was one of my earliest memories when my dad took me to Andrew Lloyd Webber's Music of the Night. And it was this whole live concert of all these different songs from all the productions he had done. But the Phantom is the one that stuck out to me. I don't know.
How old were you then?
Oh God, I remember sitting on our front step and my mom putting on my shoes as a kid. So
yeah.
all I remember are knees down from we were in the auditorium.
Yeah.
So pretty young.
Yeah, knees down and sound.
Yes. Just all right, this is where we are at.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I actually have some interesting early childhood memories of musical songs, and I feel like they're so accessible to kids too, because it's
Oh, yeah.
they're just they're literally just telling the story. It's not I wonder what this means. It's
Right.
just this is what we're doing right now.
Literally in the moment, there's no interpretation. This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
So they played music.
Yeah.
Did they get you started on piano lessons or something like that?
So I have a younger sister as well, and she and I were in choirs. That was kind of just the easy thing. When we were in elementary school, everyone loves to be in the choir. You're kind of in the choir already because you have a music class that you take.
Mm-hmm.
So it was one of those things that I loved to do. And at a certain point, my music teacher at the time, Mrs. Gould, I'll never forget you. Shout out. She suggested to my folks that I start taking singing lessons. And they were like, oh, okay, well, sure, why not? And they talked to me about it. I was like, sure, why not? I'm 11. I don't know. I guess I was 9.
Wow.
9. And I was like, that sounds fun. I'd love to do singing
Right.
lessons, sure. And I loved it. It was just a wonderful experience. My vocal teacher, Erin, was just absolutely fantastic and kind of opened the door to these other possibilities in music outside of school choir and like handbells and stuff.
Actually,
Nothing wrong with handbells.
I
love the handbell.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to ask you a follow-up about that, because was your voice teacher encouraging you, like, or even sort of putting out the possibility of like, hey, you can learn to develop your voice and like not just to sing opera, but like maybe for pop music or for jazz or for like, popular forms, quote unquote?
That's actually a really great question. I believe that she just saw the potential for me to be able to expand in some form or fashion. And I don't know if she really knew what that was, but I think she was just trying to open the door on the possibility of me being able to run with something that she thought I was good enough at.
That's amazing. It's so encouraging.
Yeah, shout out.
Incredibly. Yeah.
I just remember like my guitar teacher being like, nah, you don't want to take singing lessons. They just teach you to do like, oh. And I was like, yeah, you're right. That's for squares. But that was not great advice looking back.
Oh, well, I would say that's bad advice.
Right. You're like, if anything.
I finally did it when I was like 30. I was like, you know what? Maybe it's time.
God, that's how I feel now. It's like I ended up taking 2 years of lessons. And during that time, it was like, yeah, you're doing a lot of the technical things because you need to learn. But my teacher would be like, hey, I have this pop song that I would love for you to try out. Do you want to go with it? And I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? I love singing. And so it was, the teachers that I had were really wonderful about applying technical information, but also trying to keep it interesting because you're literally teaching children and you need to keep them engaged. So yeah, that was my singing lesson experience. I only did that for, I want to say like 2 years.
What was your favorite stuff to sing?
The one song that stands out to me that my teacher had me sing, do y'all remember the movie The Prince of Egypt?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
When You Believe, like the final song at the very end, that like Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey did a duet with each other. Yeah.
Sweet.
I specifically remember that. Right. Super simple. Yeah. All 11-year-olds. This is base level. But I just remember she would bring in stuff like that. So it was just, I don't know. It was kind of an age where I feel like my teacher was essentially, okay, we can do anything. I don't know what you want to sing. You just like to sing. So like, is there anything that you really love?
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, like early training and versatility.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
But you only did that for a couple years?
Yes, because then from there, I ended up applying to an art school in my hometown of Edmonton, and it was kind of an all-encompassing art school. So everything from visual to audio to performing. It was a really, really cool place to grow up and like just learn to love, the arts even more. We had a beautiful theater. We had a play and a musical every year. It was like a really rad place to be, to try and find yourself in a lot of different ways. And so I was heading to that school, but I was really wanting to, for some reason around that time, start playing the saxophone. I was just like convinced like saxophone is where it's at.
Yeah.
Which
Well, saxophone is where it's at.
It is.
Yeah.
More sax all the time.
Yes.
Underrated.
So you're probably amazing at playing sax, huh?
I wish I was. I wish. My folks were like, cool. So sax is great, but like, how do you feel about guitar lessons?
About not playing the sax.
Not doing that.
You know what? That's funny because I feel like more often than not, people's parents are more like, oh, play something you could play in an orchestra, not guitar, like a commoner.
Right. Like an average human being.
Yeah.
I know. I honestly think that a big part of that push, they saw that I wanted to continue into music somehow, but we had my dad's like old guitar from when he had a stint in like trying to learn himself when he was like 11 years old. So about the same
nice.
age, actually, 11 or 13, I think. And it was this old classical guitar, nylon string. It had like a big gash in the front of it.
Cool. Makes me think of Willie Nelson's
Yeah,
guitar.
right. All hollowed out in the pickguard area. But they were like, why don't you try that out and see how that goes? And I was like, all right. So that was like my first guitar, which was really rad,
Nice.
having been my dad's before.
Do you still have it?
We do. It's still in the
Oh,
basement.
yay.
Yeah.
Nice.
No way I'm getting rid of that thing.
No.
That's a family heirloom at that
Good.
point.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I learned on nylon, and it's obviously like a very different.
It's harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I got into guitar lessons, my teacher was really awesome, again, about bridging the gap between technical ability and just, oh, you have a song you want to learn? What is it? Like, let's do it today. So because it was nylon, he had me doing a lot of dexterity stuff with my right hand. So we were doing finger picking. And so that, and then I remember like the first song that I ever learned on guitar was in my first lesson with him. And I don't know if you guys remember from the first Spider-Man movie that came out with Tobey Maguire, the song Hero.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
What, like the Bowie song?
No, it's with, I'm going to show my Canadian colors here right now.
But
It
Goes
is.
Down or
it's
somebody?
Chad Kroger.
There we
Right,
go.
right.
And I think Joseph
Chatty.
Scott is the other guy on the track. And I know he's part of a band that I just cannot recall
Nickelback.
right now. But Chad is from Nickelback, yes.
Yeah.
Shout out to all my Canadians. I will die on the Nickelback train. I love their early music. I think it's amazing.
Shout out
was-
Nickelback, huh?
Hey,
Yeah.
There we go.
You know what?
That
That's a hot
song-
take, and I'm here for it.
I'm here we're all here for it.
I feel
Nickelback
like-
comes up often.
I feel like they get
Yeah.
a little too much shit when like they had #1 hits back in like
Yeah.
2002.
They really
I remember
did.
when they were cool.
Yeah.
Like the song would come on the radio. People were like, yeah.
You know, just once something's a meme.
I know,
I
it's
know.
hard
Like-
to
I don't
bring
know
it back.
what happened.
We're tough.
Yeah.
We're tough people.
Yeah.
For real.
We're hard on everybody.
I know everyone starts somewhere.
I know.
Exclamation mark.
The internet turns on everyone eventually.
Oh,
Yeah.
ain't that the truth?
Oh, God. Anyway, but I love
Yeah,
that.
so Chad,
the,
so that song, yeah,
the
Hero.
song from Spider-Man.
Yes. So
I
that
do
was
remember
like
that.
The first song, finger picking.
no, it was actually a bar chord song.
Whoa.
I can't
On
even.
the classic.
Yeah, it was like a.
Bar chords on a nylon string sounds really challenging.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You
I
did
don't
it.
even know how, but it happened, and I was just absolutely just thrilled with my teacher. His name was Rob, but he was just awesome. So between like learning the classical stuff, bridging the gap between that and learning songs that I just wanted to bring in and see if we could tackle them, he was the guy. He was awesome. It was more about like actually applying the skills to the guitar as opposed to reading it off paper. And so music and reading music, following music didn't happen until later on in like junior high and high school when I started going to that arts school. So it was like starting from scratch. I'm like, I don't know how to read music. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. But yeah, I can show you a G chord. Like there was like no connection there for me. So yeah, went to this art school, again, just in a place where you're allowed to really cultivate and hone things that you love to do. You were allowed to have 2 arts electives. And so I went with band and choir, and eventually derivatives of that. So like jazz choir, and played clarinet for 6
Yeah.
years.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
All the while like still going into my music stuff. Like it was kind of a really interesting trajectory from there. I just never got past it.
That's so
I
funny.
just loved the clarinet vibe
Yeah.
too much. I
That's-
thought it was so cool.
That's good. That's good.
I just love
Detective
Kenny
work.
G
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
I need to.
Kenny
be
G's
like
amazing.
You wanted to play soprano sax or like what kind of sax?
I wanted to play tenor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I rented you were able to rent during the summer from the band program any
that's
instrument
cool.
you wanted.
Yeah.
And I rented that thing and I played it once, and it was just such a different experience from playing on this tiny little clarinet to
Yeah.
a horn that's like almost 3 times as big as that thing, and the like embouchure power you needed, the wind power you needed. I was like,
Yeah.
I can't play this shit. Like,
Yeah, I
it
feel
was
that.
one of those things where I was like, I guess I was never destined to play saxophone.
Yeah, I switched to French horn in 7th grade.
Good
Just
for you.
well,
Oh my God, we
Come
got
on.
a brass band
Let's
over
go.
here.
literally
Yeah.
only so I could sit next to my best friend because
that's
she played French
adorable.
horn
Okay.
because her older brother did. So her family already owned the French horn.
That's real.
But why did I do that with my best friend? My best friend was a bass clarinet player. So she graduated from clarinet to bass clarinet, and I would only play clarinet 3 parts so I could sit in the second row next to her.
Mary, that's so
I
cute.
love it. That's so real, though. Yeah.
You're like, no, I don't want to be first chair.
No, thank
Yeah.
you. As low
I'm
as
in
you
it
can
for
go.
the friendship.
Priorities. Well, hey, it all worked out.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Beautiful.
So at what point did you start actually writing your own stuff?
That would have been right around the time that I started guitar lessons. So I was like, I don't know. Guitar was one of those things where I'm sure everybody has this type of sensation with something in their life where it's like you discover something or you become a fan of something where it's like there is no end to how enthusiastic you can be about said thing.
I love that.
And that's what guitar was for me. I would sit in my room for hours and just like screw around, and I didn't even know what I was doing. It was just discovering this new thing that I was absolutely obsessed with. My dad bought me a chord book, and it was like, okay, they label each of your fingers with a number, and this is where you put them. This is how you read the chart, and here you go. And that's all I would do. I would just sit there and play inversions. I had no idea what inversions were, and I just was obsessed, super, super obsessed.
So you were just like nerding out and experimenting and going like, what's an inversion?
Yeah.
Like figuring it all out. And then did that at some point just transition into like, well, maybe I could put something together myself?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't really remember how I got there in terms of like writing songs. It was just my folks listened to a lot of really amazing songwriters. I mean, like James Taylor was one. He had.
Now we're talking.
Who did my mom really love? God, it's like someone goes, "Can you play a song?" And you're like, "I don't know the music, actually."
No, yeah.
Tell me
You're
a
just
joke.
like completely blank.
But it's like a guitar, like singer-songwriter type. Yeah.
A lot of those people, like my dad introduced me to a lot of different people that I really deeply attached myself to. So like, yeah, James Taylor, Sheryl Crow, Johnny Lang, India Ari, Stevie Wonder was always on rotation in our house. Like we had so many amazing writers in our ears like all the time that I don't know if it was just like
and singers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did
Always
Joni
inspired.
Mitchell come from your parents, or did you discover that independently?
Joni was a me discovery,
Okay.
which is interesting because considering that she's such an
right?
iconic Canadian royalty music person, that it's actually funny to think that she was not really like in our regular rotation.
I always forget she's Canadian. Of course she is.
Well, what about Sarah McLachlan?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
She's like the queen up there.
Yes.
Yeah. And Celine?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, of course.
So it's just like you have this gamut of different incredible musicians always on rotation in the house that I feel like maybe that stuff like seeps into you at some point. It just becomes a
for
part
sure.
of you. And
100%.
Oh, yeah.
What was fun
You're a
for you to
sponge.
play when you're nerding out on guitar? Like, what were like, you would do inversions, but what were like the kind of songs that you loved playing most? Like, or figuring out the most?
I really loved the like folky, intimate singer-songwriter vibe. Like the community, the music community that I grew up in Edmonton, it's deeply interwoven with folk music.
Okay.
We have a folk music festival that happens every single year, and they just bring in this plethora of incredible musicians, but it's like year round. I used to go to open stages all the time, like open mics, and when I started writing songs, and my parents were like, well, cool, we've heard of these things from my aunt and uncle. They were in these circles. And so when they saw that I was getting into it, they were like, well, we go to these open mics. Like, do you want to come hang out? And so it was like, I would bring my guitar and get my 15 minutes of fame and just like do my thing. But through that, you learn so much through community. There's like a lot that can not be taught in a lesson, and it's so different what you learn sitting in a room with people. You're jamming, you're like watching them perform, you're absorbing like what they have to bring to their performance. And so the folk music community in Edmonton just taught me so much about just being a musician and communicating as a musician. Like, how do we do that? So you learn about songwriting, you learn, people teach you stuff. It's just all so unsolicited, and it was an incredible way to grow up.
And the lyrics of folk music, they're always story driven. It's very
Yes.
it's a very particular kind of storytelling and lyrics.
Yeah.
I know Rose is always fascinated about lyrics.
Yeah, I'm definitely.
Is that your question?
No. I'm definitely really into lyrics. I was just kind of thinking about how, especially if you were, younger than most of the other people there, I'm sure people were probably, pretty game to teach you stuff.
Oh, gratefully so.
Yeah.
Like, all these people took me under their wing and taught me stuff that I feel like I would have never have learned outside of or inside of a lesson, like it just, and it could have gone a whole different way. Like, I know that there's protection over space for people that have been doing this for a very long time.
Oh, yeah, that's
but,
true.
Sure, yeah.
Every single person that welcomed me into these spaces was just kind from top to bottom, wanted to help, wanted to be involved, wanted to teach or impart knowledge. It was just a really rad community.
That's so lucky.
Yeah.
That's great.
Cool.
Yeah.
It sounds very Canadian too.
I was gonna say,
That's
yeah,
what like Bob
People,
Love was
yeah.
saying.
yeah. I feel like the that's
yeah.
right.
Natasha.
Bob Love was talking a lot about
Yeah.
like playing music in Canada versus here, but I was just thinking like the Canadian part of that makes sense, the famous politeness. But no, what sort of venues were these things happening in? Was it more coffee shops or bars?
Yeah. Jumped around from coffee shop to coffee shop, which was really cool. So you really got a chance to understand what a listening audience was.
Oh yeah.
It was, you knew that anytime you went to an open mic, you were either giving undivided attention or you would be getting undivided
Oh,
attention.
that's so nice. I love a respectful environment.
Yeah.
Like LA where people just wait their turn.
Well, here it's like, yeah, if you want that, hotel cafe. Just go to the hotel
Yeah,
cafe.
yeah.
Yeah.
Everywhere else, people are just going to be like chatting over you and ordering drinks and whatever.
It
But-
definitely was a big cultural shift for me in terms of having grown up with that. Like, even the festival that we have every year, like, there are side stages aside from the main stage, and people are like locked in and silent, like watching you until you're done, and then they're in it, like applauding. They
That's
love,
so
like,
sweet.
just they're just absorbing every single thing that you have to offer on stage. And so coming to LA, where you're like in these rooms, and you're like, cool, I want to do the thing, and like.
And people are like,
It's just so the polar opposite. And I understand it's a completely different experience. LA County has literally 10 times the people of my hometown, including surrounding like smaller areas. So I guess I should expect or should have expected that I'm showing up and being like, all right, let's play a room. And when you're in a place that's so saturated and people really are drawn to excitement around artists' music, like being a brand new person to a new city where nobody knows your name, it's like there's going to be that necessary gradual growth within the city. So still jarring.
So many things about moving to LA that are jarring.
Amongst, yes.
But no, it sounds like you got a really great opportunity to sort of get trained in like live performance and sort of what it is to be. I mean, these musicians that you idolize that are famous already, there's so much distance between you and them that I don't think they necessarily serve as a good example for like what the day-to-day part of it all is. You know, it's like, oh, I aspire to this maybe, but not like what does it mean to be a local musician or to be like building a music career.
Right.
So that's pretty awesome and just nice that they happen to be nice people and not like, creeps or super territorial or something terrible like that.
Yes. We were super, super lucky as a family. And like my sister would come and join me too. So like she and I eventually became this like sister duo and she would play her djembe and have like her little shaky egg and sing harmonies with me. And it was all because of these people, you know? It was a really great way to spend like our teenage years working. Like that was our part-time job.
Were these
so awesome.
recorded?
I'm jealous.
And were these originals or covers?
Yeah, so a little bit of everything. I mean, I love a good cover. I really do.
Yeah.
But, I wrote my first song, which I will play later, when I was 11.
Wow.
And I played it for my dad, and he was just like, is this... You said you wrote this?
Yeah, like, who did you steal this from?
Yeah, he was like, who did you take this from? I was like, no, Dad, like I wrote it. And he was like, okay.
Jaw drop.
Yeah, like,
Nice.
sure. And it just kind of went from there. I don't know. So like I've been writing songs since I was young, and I was grateful for the opportunity. The province that I live within, it's actually a thing that happens throughout Canada, though. Each province, which is like the equivalent to a state in America, they are generally really wonderful for supporting the arts.
Yes.
So there are a lot of like arts foundations that exist across the country. And
Another reason why Canada is better than the United States.
they're just, I feel like I've seen some like come across my plate here. It's just like they're very far and few between and like very, like you gotta grab it when it's there type of thing. So it's like, it's just so much more competitive. You guys literally have like, how many more people than Canada? Like California has more people in this state than all of Canada.
Oh my God, really?
Like
I didn't realize
That's
that.
so wild.
You guys have so much more competition here. Like
Yeah.
I will say we. I've been living here for, it'll be 10 years in August. So we have a lot of competition
Nice.
here. But because of that and because of this direction I seem to be taking in life and just like doing something I really, really love to do, it got to a point with songwriting and being asked to perform like opening sets at folk clubs and whatnot for different incredible promoters that were in the city that I had enough of a catalog where I was starting to be asked by people like, do you have recordings of anything? Like, do you want to record anything? And so I did a little like 3-song EP on
That's
this.
how it starts.
Yes.
Yay.
It was well, that wasn't the first time. The first time I went into studio, my parents had found this like tiny little basement spot called Be Seen Studios, and it's no longer there. But I went in, recorded 2 songs, one of them being the one I'm going to play later. And I just was like, the process of going through the whole thing was just so thrilling to me. I know
Oh,
that
yeah.
you guys know.
Oh yeah.
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 And I was like, yes, I would like, this is incredible. I need to do this again. So a couple of years later, there was someone who had, it was like a studio in a box where you essentially had like, you had faders on it. You had the ability to like navigate through like it was like a
Wow.
turn dial on a,
Oh, what?
it was like
Oh,
a, I can't.
Was it sort of like a digital 4-track kind of a thing?
I want to say
or
it was
8-track?
It was like a huge box like this, and like you could bounce stuff down to MP3 or burn a CD.
Yeah,
and-
You were holding your hand about like a couple of feet
yeah. Like I want to say like
to take a picture. But
like 2 feet by like 2.5 feet. Maybe it was like this giant
That's
behemoth of a
crazy.
thing. Like direct, like XLRs,
Yeah,
like
I
quarter
had one
inches.
of those.
Really?
Yeah, I had it. It was a Roland.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's what it was. Either Roland or Boss. It
Yeah,
sounds
like
really familiar.
VR8. So some I forgot what it was called, but those things were awesome.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
And like I would like, I'm sure I wasn't allowed to do this, but I would like rip songs from my favorite artists' albums because it was the era of iTunes where you could just like download their songs into iTunes. And I would like create these harmony recordings with my favorite artists. So I got to like sing, quote unquote, with
that's
my
so
like
sweet.
before you could do
Idols?
that on TikTok.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
Duets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's like that was kind of this falling into love with the next part of music was like, oh, we can record this and like this is amazing.
Now it's here forever.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, if you still have those recordings.
Oh, we would love to.
I'm sure they are buried somewhere. I still have that thing. I had my parents ship me that behemoth from Edmonton to LA, and
Wow.
it's sitting under my couch in my studio. So I'm gonna have to like,
Oh, wait, so
break
you
it
did
out
it
and-
yourself?
yeah, it was.
Sorry,
like a
I
home
don't know how I
studio
missed that
thing.
part.
No,
It's
it's
literally
totally
like just like a
fine.
tabletop with
Yeah.
some faders.
No,
and
I think
it's-
my friend Brady has one, actually.
Yeah.
We recorded some stuff on it.
Yes, it was so great. It was amazing. And so from there, it was like you naturally start to accumulate more songs. And it got to a point where we were told, my family and I, about these grants that Alberta had to offer. And they were like, you know what? It might not hurt if you like are really looking to do a serious type of album. We were already talking to some people who were really lovely people and wanted to get involved and wanted to help. And we were lucky enough to get approved for
Yeah,
some of these
congrats.
grants, which was
Yeah.
really, really awesome. So it allowed me to like experience what it was like to be in a professional music setting with professional musicians who are coming in to record, like doing the whole bit. And I think that was just another wonderful way to learn about the music industry without intentionally being like, okay, we're here to do a studio day. We're going to sit here. We're going to understand. And it was just like I remember Mike Lent is the guy who produced my first and second album, but he used to play bass for Katie Lang. Nicest
Oh, yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, super
Also,
cool.
Shout
I
out,
love Katie Lang
Yeah.
so
Yeah, shout
much.
out.
Yeah, Katie is awesome. But like Mike was
Yeah.
just, he was so He was the guy. He was so nice, like nerdy in the best way. But I remember this moment of like sitting there and we were tracking just acoustic guitar, and it was the first time I had ever performed to a click.
Oh,
I
that's
didn't know that
always
was
weird.
a thing.
So weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Very
he was
challenging.
like very challenging. So I had gone through it a couple times, and he was just so nice about coming in and being like, okay, so like this is how you can feel it better. This is how, you know, like you can lock it into your body better. Like don't be afraid to move around while you're recording. Like have it feel natural. Just such a guiding,
That's so valuable.
amazing mentor
Yeah.
without like that being the purpose. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So we got to record I had like 12 songs. We did the whole album. My dad like helped do the artwork on his computer at
That's
work.
beautiful.
He's like he's a mechanical engineer, and he specializes in like ventilation systems. So he's on a computer designing all
like
the time.
AutoCAD
Oh,
or
wow.
something.
Exactly, yeah.
Shout out, Daddy.
Love you, Dad. And he was able to just like put the artwork together for me. We had met a really amazing photographer who was also like sort of a family friend. And it was such an organic, beautiful process. And I don't know, like it's hard to really answer your question of like how I got into songwriting, because it all just, I feel like you guys probably have similar experiences where you're just learning all this stuff at the same time. It's all kind of unfolding at the same time because you love it, and
Yeah.
and it just kind of finds its way into you and then out of you. So I don't know.
I guess there's like something that compelled you to like express it. Although that's not always the first song, that's definitely something that drives songwriting.
Well, to piggyback on that,
Yeah.
do you feel like it was more the guitar playing or the melody part of it, or did you have words you wanted to say?
I was a very shy kid, like very shy. And like, I would always rather just kind of hang back and listen and watch. And I was not, my sister was very the opposite of me. Like she's a ball of energy,
Yeah.
like
Older sister?
younger, almost by 3
Oh,
years, but we used to
wow.
get mistaken for twins all the time.
Oh.
She's actually out in Toronto doing her own music thing with her husband.
Nice.
They do
Cool.
music together.
Oh,
They're both
cool.
amazing artists.
What's
and
that project
songwriting.
called?
Sweet.
Well, her husband's name is Jordan Hart, but she goes by Emily Schultz, and she just put out her first ever EP. And
Get
it's absolutely amazing. I
That's
just
awesome.
like I know I'm biased, but like she's worked so hard to become the artist that she is. I'm sure it's weird to grow up like being a younger sibling. We went to the same school together. She was trying to figure out herself. I was trying to figure out myself. And so I'm just like proud of her that she's found her voice in such a hard industry to do so.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it was for her and myself as well. Is like I felt that I could express thoughts better through writing, through song, have it be concise, telling a story, putting that all together, connecting all the different things that you wanted to connect. I just felt like I was better at singing to people than I was talking sometimes. Not to be like totally corny, but like, yeah, it was, I don't know, like public speaking and being on stage and like inter-song banter was very, very difficult for me. But the minute like the song started and like, here I go, I'm about to sing this, it
You
was like,
shine.
yeah, it was like not a problem.
Well, it's funny you say like things I didn't necessarily know how to express. It's also like, well, who were you going to tell that to? I mean, because this was right like before Instagram where you would just like write a long post about what you're thinking. Like,
Right.
who else are you just going to like muse about whatever thing to? Like, that's what songs are for.
Yes, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Or I guess your therapist, but you know.
Right. If you
Yeah.
right. Thankfully, I did not need a therapist till
Right.
later on in life.
I know, you know what I mean?
Make me
Like,
think of like Charlie Brown, you know, like
Right.
Lucy as the therapist. Yeah,
right.
Cute.
But yeah, who else, who, or where else would you really be expressing some of your, you know, innermost thoughts and feelings or abstract ideas?
Right, exactly. I mean, like aside from a diary, I kept a diary as a kid, and I guess that's only.
Oh, you did? Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Any of those became lyrics? The entries?
I'm sure.
That's literally how Rose came up with the idea for the show.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
that.
because I had one of those kind of like diary/journal things.
Mm-hmm.
It ended up being probably more lyrics than anything else, but sometimes I would just, you know,
Yeah.
I guess, stream of consciousness, just write about whatever I was feeling.
Yes.
You know, my classmate being a bitch or something. I don't know.
Probably. Same. We all had them.
Or usually about boys. It's always about boys.
Duh. Obviously.
Well, let's hear the song, yeah?
Yeah. Let's see how angsty I was at 11.
Yes.
I can't wait.
Do you want to tell us anything about it or just after?
Yeah, I mean, this song is like, I feel a direct product of growing up in a folk blues community. It's like an A-B type of song. Like, here's one section, here's the other section.
Right.
But
I love that.
I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of who were my big influences at that time. And I think that Johnny Lang was like my idol at the time. Johnny and Sheryl Crow. And India Ari, but she I feel like her influence came much, much later in terms of at least musical influence and vocal performance. But Johnny Lang was it. I remember my dad telling me yeah, he put out his first album when he was 15, and I was like,
What?
who's this guy? 15?
Is that fair?
Yeah. Like, what? And I just remember him playing Lie to Me, and it would have been the album Lie to Me, I think.
Great voice, yeah.
And just being like, how is this guy 15? I don't know if I was like half jealous, but also half inspired of like, well, if this guy can do it at 15, like I was 11 at the time,
Yeah.
like this sounds fun.
Yeah,
Like
you got
I
4
want to do
years,
this.
kid.
Right,
Figure it
exactly.
That's amazing.
But yeah, so this song is just like me at the very beginning of trying to understand like writing songs and being influenced heavily by that blues style that I was in and around, and just being 11 and things like being too on the writing about stuff I had no idea about,
for sure.
right? So
That's our
it's just-
favorite.
Yeah.
So like singing this later on in life, I feel like maybe it's a little more applicable to people, but like at 11, what are you doing, girl? Like, are you okay?
Oh,
All right, well, I have not played this for like a solid amount of time, so raw and ready, here we go.
Yes.
I've been traveling and walking on roads for too long, and now you probably think that I'm going gone. I thought you hated me, I thought you wanted me to die. I'm coming home soon, baby. Don't you ever cry. I've been hearing people talking behind our backs, and I think it's about time that they cut us some slack. Oh yeah, we'll stop the lie. Don't you worry, baby. Don't let them see you cry. Our future's looking brighter, as bright as day. They won't get that far, the people say. We'll show them just you and I. We've got each other, baby, and they're never gonna see us cry.
Oh my my gosh. That was
Oh my
amazing.
God,
So
it's
good.
so good. I mean, see, this is why the story is important, right? Because that is a good song. But like, where the hell were you traveling to?
Right. Like, where were you to school?
Yeah.
to school.
Literally walking across the schoolyard and
I
going.
went to the beach with my family. Yeah.
That's traveling.
Amazing. That is
Like, which roads are you walking on too long? Like,
That's
what?
so good though.
You haven't
11?
done anything for
Yeah.
too long. You're
Are you
11
kidding?
years old.
Yeah, what?
I love
Right.
that.
No,
Oh,
but I
so
mean,
good.
You know, imitation is such a like important teaching tool at the
Amen.
beginning of something, and like I mean, you did a great job. Like Johnny Lang ain't got nothing.
Yeah, I love that.
No offense,
Johnny
Johnny
who?
Lang.
Yeah, I love
my
that
God,
turnaround too of like, don't let them see you cry, and then they're never gonna see us
You're
cry. I love that.
Just like, it's just funny to think about because, like, Tony, when you asked me to do the show and like what the concept was around the live performance part, I was like, man, like, what would I perform? Because it was that one and then another one. But yeah, you think about going back into these spaces and you're reading these words over and you're
And
like,
you're like, what?
What was I even
Yeah.
talking
Like, yeah,
about?
like,
Love it though.
are you good, girl? Like,
Yeah, I am curious. Like, I mean, did you like have a crush on somebody that maybe might have been like in your mind, or was this just sort of a work of imagination?
you know, I really don't think there was anyone that was the inspiration for this. Like, I think I knew that blues songs were often about like heartache or like
Okay.
struggling through
Yeah,
your
yeah.
relationship of like what I had heard of these different songs. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, they're always talking about like getting fucked up by someone like emotionally.
Very
so like,
problematic
Getting out of
messaging.
town.
Yeah, so that's easy. Yeah.
right. So I was like, okay, I guess I can like, they talk about like hitting the road a lot and like they're always heartbroken and like, okay, sometimes the story ends well, sometimes it doesn't. Like, so just kind of, yeah, imitation. Exactly, Rose. It's just like, I know what these people write about. These are the typical points
Yeah.
that you hit when you write a blues song, more or less unintentionally, maybe. But yeah,
Nailed it.
I mean, you nailed
Nailed
the
it,
form
absolutely.
for sure. You nailed the form.
just like check off the list.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were 16 when you put out the first album. Is that right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so you just kind of cooking in the folk scene, made that record,
Gratefully, yeah.
and what was the process of putting that out like?
Incredibly different than it is now. It was one of those things where it's like you show up to a show and everybody has their albums out. You
Yeah.
know, like
Yep.
that's just how it
Merch.
was. And yeah, merch. Merch tables then were not where they were now. And yeah, I again, just this community was incredible for rallying around people that just I don't know, like that they really believed in. And I had a sister's classmate. Her mom was the director of one of the performance venues in town. It was called the Citadel Theater. We did a lot of productions there as a city. Like that's where a lot of kind of smaller production plays would come through. It was an amazing spot, but it was used for everything. It's like an event space as well. I had like post-graduation, high school graduation stuff there.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's super rad space. But when we were looking for a place to release the album, like do an album release party, because I was like, I didn't know that was a thing, but people were like, you have to do
What?
one.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. Penny was really dope and found like one of the smaller theaters. It was a black box, and she was like, this will be great. Like we'll be able to have the built-in theater seating that's already in there. We put a whole band together. Like it was really cool. A lot of people who were on the album, in fact, that recorded, were able to be a part of the performance. And so yeah, we put out the album, and yeah, you print like a shit ton of CDs and
Yeah.
and you like package them in a way where like you could sign them for people, and it
So you
was
burned them yourself?
we went through a production
Yeah.
company, so they were able to like put together.
I remember those.
Yeah, yeah, really wonderful people.
Did you sell on CD Baby?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was like the main.
That was
the
it.
OG.
Yeah.
They're not making
Yeah.
CDs anymore.
They're not.
No.
They were like, hey, we're gonna need you to take these CDs back, and I was like, that's really sad.
Well, yeah, I got that email.
It's like I'm sad now. So it was such a different process. Like social media wasn't really a thing. It wasn't until I think like the end of high school for me, where I remember being in like a computer lab and someone had sent me a link. They were like, yo, check out this thing called Facebook. And I was like,
Yeah.
cool. And we were all about MySpace. That was
Yeah.
huge when
Oh,
I was
yeah.
doing music.
Yeah.
Of like just connecting with people. I remember like we had a lot of people on that page, and it was one of the best ways that I was able to get in contact with people that wouldn't hear my shit otherwise.
MySpace was very band forward.
Yes.
We
Shout out Tom.
Shout out
Yeah.
Tom. Shout out to all the free web hosting.
yeah.
Shout out
Yes.
MySpace.
Yeah, we
Top
talk
8.
about this
Yeah.
a lot.
Top 8.
How MySpace really was. It was so much better than what came after for musicians because
For musicians.
I mean, what came after?
Facebook.
Facebook.
Facebook, but
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
not like...
but like, yeah.
Facebook was
I feel
terrible
like they're
is terrible
different
for
'cause, like,
musicians
Yeah.
to this day. They do not care. There's so
It's like
many things.
MySpace bands had to go find a
Yeah.
website that was pro band.
Right.
There were
And it
just so
wasn't
many.
Facebook.
There were just so many things that were like trying to fill that void.
Yeah.
That just like didn't.
Yeah.
Or didn't
Yeah.
do it all in one place. Like MySpace did. It wasn't like the social media platform that you could just put your music on. It was like specifically for bands, so
Yes.
people would have to go looking for bands that wouldn't be
Yes.
on there otherwise. Yada yada. But
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
anyway, yes. Shout out Tom because that was
Our
Come back
first
to us,
friend.
Tom.
Come back.
Yeah.
my MySpace really was awesome for music.
It was incredible. Like there are people that I listen to today that I discovered
On
through
MySpace?
MySpace.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's so
So it's
amazing.
like I don't know, relationships that I
Yeah.
created
Yeah.
with people through MySpace that I've like been able to meet in person, throughout my lifetime. So that was one of the greatest parts I think about like I don't want to say like a golden age of what
It was
social
golden.
media. Okay.
It was,
All right.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
calling it. It was the golden age of social media.
Well, it was before it was all monetized.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It was so pure. Like it was such an organic way of connecting with people. And so that like unintentionally, now that you have all these songs recorded, you're able to put it on this platform and people are really into it. And they're
Yeah.
into it because they want to be into it. I don't know if y'all remember like being able to share songs on like your page. And
Oh,
like
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I love doing that for
Yeah.
other artists too,
Oh,
because
yeah.
it was like, yeah, my shit is here, but like I'd love for you guys to listen to this person because I really believe in what they're doing. And like I know that Spotify has a version of that now where you can put any song, I think, on your like artist page
Oh,
to
really?
have like your feature song.
Oh, wow.
But I don't quote me on that. Like maybe it's like only one of your songs.
That's
but
going to be our
is,
quote
like,
that we take from you.
perfect. I love
Tony.
it. I love it.
Sorry.
Too late. It's done.
But yeah, like releasing it was so different. It was just an incredibly different situation. Like you put it out and like people were there and I want the physical thing. I want to bring it home. I want it signed. I want to have this personal connection of like buying it from you at a show. And yeah, I don't know. It's like that was kind of the extent of it for me. There was no really thinking about branding because that album was like, all right, I'm going to put on my jeans and like my favorite shirt and we're going to go take some photos in the fucking like park. Like, I don't know.
And this is all happening while you're in high school.
Yeah.
So I kind of love that like you're also just like still going to normal high school
Yeah, right.
and doing or not normal high
It
school.
was like an art
amazing.
school.
Yeah.
Did you go play some people's art openings?
Yeah, there was.
That's
definitely
really cool.
I feel like that was just the city. Like people knew.
That's just Canada.
That was the vibe. Yeah.
gratefully.
Everyone
Like,
go to Canada.
I
We're
feel
going.
like Edmonton was it's such a beautiful anomaly in amongst what it exists within, like geographically. And I like the city is just always about. Like during summer, it's called festival city, and festival season because like we have 8,000 years of winter and like 2 weeks of summer.
Yeah,
So it's like we try and jam pack everything into these 2 gorgeous weeks of summer. It's longer, I promise. It's not that terrible,
3
but
weeks,
3 max.
Cool.
But people are just, I think, innately wanting to be creative in that city because they know that there are the outlets to do so and the people that want to help them do that. It just kind of oozes this like we want to celebrate somehow and arts are so at the center of that, which is really fucking cool. Like there's so many places or even people that I've spoken to, they're like, I wish that there was even like a whisper of that where I grew up and like
Yeah, because I mean like my high school, there were like a couple of bands and that's it. And most people were not artistically interested.
Right,
you know what I mean? So it's
yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what kind of got you interested in going to Berklee College of Music? Not
She's like my
BC.
extreme
was-
talent.
You're too kind. It was serendipitous, actually. I had no intention of going to college after I graduated high school.
Oh, really?
It was, I was grateful and thankful enough to have enough momentum with what I was doing with my music that I was like, school is just going to get in the way. I want to be done with school. I want to get out. I want to like really like put my foot on the gas and see what can happen when I don't have to show up for an exam in the morning, like that type of thing. So in the fall of my senior year of high school, I had a friend come back from the Berklee 5-week program in Boston. And he came back and was like, oh man, like I went to this program. It was amazing. It was at this school out in Boston called Berklee College of Music. And I was like, cool, happy for you. Like, sweet. And fate would have it that following February, Berklee was actually going to be coming to Edmonton to hold auditions. And I'd never heard of this place at all. I was just like, okay, well, that's kind of cool. Like, my friend just went to this program, like, that he'll be able to audition. That's super sick.
Yeah, that's sweet.
That he'll be able to.
Right.
Yeah.
And my best friend, her mom was a counselor at our school at the time, which was so dope because we got to like have all of our classes together. It was amazing.
Oh,
like we,
that's so
we
sweet.
had an incredible high school together. Like she's still my homie. She's still my ride or die till this day. Shelby, I love you.
Shout out,
Shout out,
Shelby.
Shelby.
She heard from her mom that Berklee was coming through and she was like, are you auditioning? And I was like, girl, why?
Yeah, you're like, excuse me.
Like,
What?
you know what I want to do. And she was like, okay. She was like, okay, just hear me out. What would happen if you auditioned? Like, what's the worst that could happen? I don't get in, obviously. She's like, cool. And then what would you do? Well, I guess go right back to what I was originally planning to do. She's like, cool, so you have nothing to lose, right? And I was like,
You're like, oh, wait.
I guess not.
That makes sense.
Yeah, logic.
Weirdly.
Wow. So yeah, we got me signed up for an audition that February of 2009. Yeah, 2009. And it went really well. I was like one of the last auditions of the day. And you could tell that like the professors and admin that were there doing the auditions were really tired and like it had been a long week of doing this stuff. And I remember one of the gentlemen that were there, because he was part of the like international admissions team for the school. He came out after my audition and talked to my mom, and he was like, yeah, so like there are financial programs to be able to help with, you know, attending the school or whatever. And both my mom and I were just like, thumbs up, like, yeah, sure, like, cool. This is, I don't know, it's like a social experiment. I don't know, this is probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
But he was like very much trying to sell us on like, not sell us, but be really informative about we can make this work financially. And so later, I want to say in April, I got a phone call and I was getting ready for school. And my mom comes into my room. She's like, there's a phone call for you. And I think you want to take this one. And I was like, okay.
Yes.
So I go to the kitchen. I'm like, hello. He's like, hey, Sam, this is Mark Campbell. Hope you're having a great day so far. I was like, yeah, just getting ready for school, getting started. And he was like, well, I hope to start you off on an even better note. You have been awarded full tuition to Berklee College of Music.
Yes.
And I was just like on the phone, like, took a minute. He was like, hello? And I was like,
Yeah, you
I'm
still
sorry.
there? Sorry, I'm crying.
Like,
Hold on, give me a
right.
sec. Yeah.
I love that he said on a better note. It was
That's so
even a
amazing.
musical
Yeah.
like
Right.
You would pick up on that.
Dad.
Yeah.
You're right.
But it's like, well, if it's free.
Right.
That's
And
amazing.
amazing.
It was such a shock because, like, I remember, like, I went through the audition and he's talking about this, like, financial access or what. And I was like, well, like, maybe we could. And I had no concept of how expensive it is to go to, like, really top tier
Yeah.
education, like, make that
insane.
happen here in the US. And my
Yeah.
parents were like, Sam, we love you. But, like,
Yeah, they're like, sorry.
chalk this up to, like, you did something, you went out of your comfort zone and tried
Yeah.
something new, but, like, we cannot make this work.
Right.
Like, it's just not going to be a thing that we can do.
Yeah.
So I was, like, a little bummed because I got excited about it. And I was thinking about, like, my friend having gone to this program in Boston. Like, I had never been to a city like Boston. And so to get that phone call from Mark, it was just like, holy shit, this is actually like, is this actually happening? So we were okay, like, now we need to figure out, like, where you're going to live, like, dorms, like, food plans, like, all that type of stuff. And then probably not long after that, I got an email. I remember I had to take the bus across town from South Side all the way downtown to get to my arts high school and then all the way back. And I remember being on the bus and I got this email from admissions and they were like, hey, so every year, this is the second year that there is a private donor from Canada. He's part of the radio industry up there. He's actually a mogul for the Canadian industry. He started this scholarship that he wants to award one Canadian student this scholarship every year. And he really wants to give it to you. It would not only be tuition, but it would be a complete full ride to go to Berklee.
What?
So covering dorm for 4 years, covering your food, covering
gosh.
like laptop that was necessary to buy. Like
Wow.
it
Oh my
covered
God.
everything. And I just remember crying on the bus, like public transportation, just like weeping by myself. And that decision from Gary Slate and his family just like changed the literal trajectory of my life. Like I wouldn't be sitting in this room with you guys right now if he hadn't have believed in me and what I had to offer in terms of just like growing and learning as a musician.
Massive shout out.
Yeah, shout
to
out Gary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so cool.
and he's still
you're an
doing
angel.
it for Canadian musicians. Like I got to
Wow.
meet the following generations of kids after that he was
That's
doing
so
that
cool.
for while I was still at the school. And like my sister actually is like a finalist for a program that the Slate Foundation is putting on right now. Like I just found that out today. And so like
Oh, yeah.
congrats.
Shout out Sissy. That's cool. Yeah.
go on. So they're just like from the get-go, this Gary and his fam were just like, we want to be all in the arts and like we believe in like helping Canadian like young musicians like figure it out. So
that's so,
So cool.
awesome.
they changed my life for
That's
the better.
amazing.
For the better.
Glad they did.
We're all grateful.
Wow. And then when you left Berklee, did you come straight to LA?
I didn't. I went home for like this summer and worked an office job at my dad's office as an assistant to the financial department. And I was just saving.
Yeah.
That was smart.
It's just like, I know that I need to put away as much as I possibly can. And then it'll be 10 years ago at the end of this August that I moved out to LA.
Oh,
Nice.
wow. Well, happy
Yeah.
anniversary.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to think about. It like time is weird here. It like
Yeah.
doesn't pass and it does so fast at the same time.
It's all that 2 weeks of Edmonton. All year
Yeah,
round.
all the time.
Yeah, just all the time.
Yeah.
It just never ends.
Yes.
And when you moved here, is that when how long was it until you found the West Side Six?
Oh God, that's so
Because that's
funny
where I
that you
met
bring
Sam.
that. That's
She was
so
in a cover
funny.
band that I was mixing.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
And it was just like the first time it was the whole band was like really good musicians. Usually it's like there's like the singer's good or whatever.
Yeah.
But they were like blowing in my mind the whole time. Me and Mike who were working the show and we were just like, what the heck?
Man, That's a while.
What
ago
kind
at
of
this point.
covers?
It was like, so it was a group put together by a friend of mine, Megan Porter. And initially it was a front line of vocalists and all of us had been in Pitch Slap together. So a couple of them graduated and then I followed like within the 2 years or so after that. So it was like 4 of us up front. So we'd been singing together for 3.5 years at that point.
Oh, that's so
Okay.
cool.
And then me on guitar. My now husband, he was my boyfriend at the time. He has a percussion drum kit set up. So he's got like cajon and djembe, but then
was
he has
cool.
like a cymbal tree and
Yeah,
all the toys you could think of. And then we had a bass player, Allie, who is
She tours with
amazing.
some big acts now,
Yes,
right?
she was with JP Sachs last summer.
Yeah.
She's with Reyes, I think now. I think she's in Australia. Like she's
Yeah.
really done a lot of work to get to where she's at, and I'm super, super stoked for her. But yeah, it was just this acoustic group where Meg's boss at the time was like, "Hey, I need a band for a party that I'm going to. Can you think of anyone?" She was like, "Well, I could like put a group together of friends that I have," and it kind of just blossomed from there. So it went from this like Christmas performance to music all the time, and the group has changed and evolved over the years. Like we've had people leave and new people come in, and that's just kind of the beauty of like having a collective like that, of like over time people's lives are going to change. And the initial iteration of that group was a very special situation. It was something that
So talented.
we were really
Everyone.
grateful for.
That really is so cool and fun. You picked up steam over time too, but I saw a story I was interested in that you were like your I'm down to $30 story, and then you got a CoverGirl commercial?
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah, that is definitely my my almost going broke LA story. I remember it because my husband's birthday was right around that time, and I remember I spent my last like $20 or something making him a birthday gift, and we went out for dinner, and like he paid for his own dinner, and I remember being like,
He wasn't bummed about it.
I mean, I was like, oh my God, like I'm so broke. I'm broke. Like I don't know what to do. And through the acapella community, there was this campaign that CoverGirl did in partnership with Pitch Perfect 2. And one of the like prominent vocal arrangers out here in LA, his name is Ben Bram. So he's worked closely with Pentatonics. He's worked closely with a lot of other really prominent vocal arranging style projects out here. He's amazing. I competed against him in the ICCAs. It goes back a while, but Ben reached out to a friend of mine and he was like, hey, there's this campaign that's come across my radar and they're asking if I have a group. And he was like, I wanted to put together a group of like really badass female singers, and are you interested? And I was like, yeah. He said, I don't know if it's going to work. Like the campaign's based out of New York, so we'll see, whatever, but it's like worth a shot. And it came through. I think that we were one of the few West Coast groups that submitted, and we ended up getting the campaign, which was crazy. And that like set me up to like get back on my feet. And
that's awesome.
It was really cool. Yeah.
Hallelujah. Well,
a blessing for sure.
I know God, that's such a good story, and you just never know where life is going to take you.
Yeah, so now I'm in a place where I've met even more wonderful people that want to create and collaborate. Chris Thigpen, who's an incredible bassist and drummer, musician all around. He's played with the Isley Brothers and Meghan Trainor.
Sweet.
And he's a Chicago guy. He lives there, and he's one of those people that like was able to pull me out of my shell around songwriting and creating and writing music and be like, I see you and what you have to offer.
Yeah.
If you can meet me where I need you to meet me, like I'm all in.
That's so rare.
And
a good bass player helps you bring your songs to life that way. What do you need? I got you.
Right. And just beyond being an incredible musician, he's one of those people where like he and I met and just instantly hit it off. And we knew right away, it's like, we're going to be homies forever.
Yeah.
Like this is going to be a forever thing. And so, like he's gotten me into these new songs that I'm really excited to like finish up, and hopefully I can get some stuff out before the end of the year. But
you have anything new you want to play us? Or like even snips? New anything?
Yeah, sure.
Sweet.
Sure. So this is one of the songs I've been working on with Chris, and it's called Child of the Sun.
Yeah.
I wrote it for my sister. One of her recharging spaces is finding whatever sunbeam she can and just like basking.
I relate.
Like a kitty cat.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so. I'm sure all Angelinos are feeling that way. They're like, where's my son? Please. But this song is talking about how we're in an age where everybody posts highlight reels and their best moments and their wins all the time, and no one sees all the shitty moments that happen in between. And as somebody who has been dealing with my own mental health journey and dealing with depression and anxiety, it's a song that I hope that a lot of people can find resonance with, of the fact that you are enough. Even if it seems like people are doing things that you want to be doing, like you are enough.
It's true.
You are.
Truth.
You are. So I'm going to try this one out, see how it goes. What color are you feeling today? Bit of blue or a little bit gray? You're important to me either way. You're my dawning day. I know you got a lot on your mind. Come sit with me a bit and unwind. I just want to give you my time and make you feel alright. I see you trying, but today just ain't the day. There's no use in lying. Can't fake away all the pain. The art of becoming is sometimes a bit too much. We're all looking for loving. wanna find that real good touch. Child of the dawn, the night won't linger on. Child of the sun, remember sunbeams and sweet dreams to come. You're one of one, child of the sun, child of the sun, child. Caught up scrolling through the timeline. Sanity is a very fine line. These highlights can tear you apart when you've been whole from the start. Life seems to favor some, while others, they get none. What will our lives become if it's all about the vanity? When you feel you can't breathe, when the air's too heavy, pull up a seat and see how beautiful you are to me. Child of the dawn, the night won't linger on. Child of the sun, remember sunbeams and sweet dreams to come. You're one of one, child of the sun, child of the sun, child of the sun. Child of the sun, limited run, one of one, child of the sun.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
was
gosh.
amazing.
That's like the
Beautiful.
second time I've ever played that in public. So
For real?
Yeah.
I feel
nailed
honored.
it.
Yeah.
No, I was like, oh Jesus, I've not practiced.
It sounded so good. And then you
beautiful.
busted in the finger picking at the end.
I appreciate that. Thank
Oh,
you.
man.
And
That was
when
amazing.
did you say you were trying to put this out?
I am trying to start releasing this new music by the end of this year into next year. I've been sitting on it far too long. So
We do that as artists.
Yeah.
We do
it
that. Yeah.
happens.
And I'm like, I'm determined not to let this die on a hard drive. So
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't be precious.
Yes.
Share.
Yeah.
Because we want to
Share.
listen.
Share the
I'll
light.
listen.
Thank
we-
you.
It's gonna
Thank
lighten up
Can't
a lot
wait.
of people's lives.
That's true.
Listen to it.
Thank you, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
I think it's a struggle a lot of people can identify with. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, can't wait for you to put it out.
Thanks, y'all. I appreciate it.
Sam Schultz, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank
Guys.
you.
Thank you for having me. This has been such a pleasure. Thank you, honestly. Like, y'all are really amazing people. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shucks. So, idyllic Canadian adolescence, check. Miraculous acceptance to and full funding of one of the foremost musical education programs in the United States, check. The universe providing when all seems lost, also check. Not that any of that is luck, because Sam is one talented lady, and after years of mostly supporting others in their artistic efforts, she is releasing original music again, and we are very stoked about that. Her newest single, Day by Day, is streaming now, as well as her entire discography, including that debut album from 2006, Both Sides. You can check her out on Spotify, follow her on socials, and fall in love. As always, we put all those links in the show notes, though so far we haven't found a reliable link for falling in love, but we are working on that. We sure would appreciate it if you'd follow us on our socials, and for the love of God, subscribe to the pod if you're not already. We really enjoy talking to musicians about their origin stories and sharing them with you, so please rate and review if you dig it too. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. You're our favorite, but don't tell the other listeners because, we don't want them to get jealous. We'll see you next week in our cable knit sweaters by a fire, or probably actually from somewhere in LA or Orange County where it's still 85 degrees. Peace!